Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome to the Pixel Crashers podcast, where, as per the usual, as everybody would not surprised at all to find out that Morty has done something to cause some problems. I'm Angelus de Mortiel, joined once again by Xaiphen. Oh, he's still muted. No, I'm just kidding. And Lila Rose is also here.
Howdy.
Yes.
I am very enthusiastic to be here, even if I don't sound it.
Very well, as we found out, the way to sound enthusiastic is just to say, I'd like to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you. In any case, we have quite a few things to go over tonight. We're going to do a lovely year-end podcast here. And the beauty of this is that it's not just a year-end like we usually do. We're also ending a decade. And I know there's many people that might say that the decade runs from 2011 to 2020. And to them, I say, fuck you. It's where the number goes in front. If there's a 1, it's in one decade. If there's a 2, it's another decade. Okay. I know why they say that. In any case, as I really quickly copy all that audio stuff that I just did to the story slide, because, might need to take care of that before we switch over there. We are going through a list of both things that were from this year and things that have happened over the last 10 years of gaming news and interesting things and stuff. So, loads of fun. We're going to get to it in just a moment here. But first, we wanted to give a quick shout out to Kev, who wanted to be here. But he got kidnapped by some really dangerous people. But it was because he kept saying that Last of Us wasn't Game of the Decade. And all these folks that were wearing Sony shirts showed up at his house. And unfortunately, we haven't heard from him since. But it's okay. I don't attribute those people with a huge amount of intelligence, so I don't think anything serious will come of it. So, with that said... You knew it was gonna happen. All right, with that said, let's move on to stories. Actually, let's get the big guy out of the way first. Obviously, we've dedicated enough podcast time to it, I think, to kind of make it almost sad. We have and this started originally, the Epic Game Store launched in December of 2018. However, the kind of controversy around it really didn't get kind of started until 2019. So as a result, it kind of goes into our epic fails of 2019. As it's funny enough, we actually have a logo that we designed for stories that we were reporting about Epic, but coincidentally, it also ties into just being generally the epic fails of 2019. So congratulations to Epic for being the number one epic fail of 2019, at least in my vote.
Yeah, I agree.
I think one of the things, though, to kind of give a retrospective for those who might just hear this and not hear all of it, the background of the Epic Games. Yeah, I could see that. So in any case, now that, most of that was missed, that's great. So
Let's do a speed catch up.
Yeah, no, the audio was again messed up for a brief moment there. Hooray. Thanks, Cats, for pointing it out.
Of course, I messes up when I'm talking.
Yep, exactly. So, in any case, now that we're back on there and there's actually audio again, so Stadia flopped, Epic failed. That sums up probably the amount of time that we were talking that you didn't hear noise. There you go. Everybody caught up?
Xbox is the best backs.
Good. Okay. So Stadia, in order for it to succeed, as I was saying, they made a calculated error with their pricing model where you have to pay monthly for the service and then buy games, whereas Xbox Game Pass charges $15 a month and you download your games. And I imagine that xCloud is going to do something similar, because the idea is that you want this to be like a Netflix style subscription. And here's the thing, is that if you go into Netflix, you don't pay Netflix $500 a month because their rates keep going up every fucking year. You don't pay Netflix $500 a month and then also have to pay for the movies. You pay them monthly and you stream whatever the fuck you want. And I think
as much as we complain about Netflix pricing going up, it's still better than cable.
Yeah.
The only thing I miss about cable is sports. Because
Yes.
I am a big NBA fan, so I've been doing Hulu Live because I've been keeping Hulu and Netflix.
I was going to say,
I
Disney...
keep seeing all these people post up crap about like, oh, I've got all these streaming services costing me more than cable. Okay, like our cable was, and it was like basic package was like $80 for just not including the internet. All streaming services that I use combined, I think, are a third of that or a quarter of that. And if I stack up all streaming for services available that exist, I still think I'd be paying for maybe barely more than half of what I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because most people don't seem to remember that it was hundreds once the cable company got done with you.
Well, on top of that, like a lot of this stuff, people already had anyway. So like Netflix, like, oh, I'm getting this streaming service and that streaming service and this one. And then like a lot of people were already paying for cable on top of all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's dumb. The moment Netflix became viable, I was looking for an exit strategy. And the problem was my wife, because she likes her cable. I don't want to keep paying $100 a month.
I found a viable alternative to that. Philo is nice and cheap and gets the bare essentials for a live TV type feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, I don't care about live. It's funny now because
I don't either.
I cut the cord in 2012 or 2013, and I went Hulu and Netflix, and that's what I did for years. Last year I tried Hulu Live for the first time. I forget what I was watching. There was some live event I wanted to see on there. And I did DirecTV Now too. I tried a free demo that was like $10 for 3 months in 2018. I love DirecTV Now. It had a few bugs in it, but I was like, I already have Hulu. Maybe combine it into one bill. Hulu Plus. I love it. I still don't like that $50 price tag on it. But now we don't even watch live TV like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember I literally got it because I wanted to finish Dragon Ball Super.
Well, you know that Disney is now bundling Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus all together for $15, right?
ESPN Plus is dog shit.
I don't know what it is. I
you
don't
can
care.
actually bundle any of those bundles. You can still get the bundle discount, even like say if you have the Hulu Live. They're just some kind of
I'm doing it with regular Hulu right now and Disney Plus, and then I have my Netflix also. The problem with ESPN Plus is it doesn't have the good sports. It has like I should say the popular sports in the U.S. I should say. That shit like rugby and bowling.
Wait, is it ESPN 8, the Ocho?
Of course it is.
I don't know the reference. I'm gonna say yes.
God, you need Kev. I forget Kev hasn't seen any movies literally ever. It's a reference to Dodgeball, which is one of the great comedies of our time.
It's officially licensed by the ADA.
But I wasn't sober.
The American Dodgeball Association of America.
Yeah. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
That's right.
So in any case, yeah. I think Stadia. Now here's the thing. Stadia might have a chance to succeed if Google doesn't fucking kill it, which they are notoriously bad at doing.
Google's killed more shit than Hitler.
Yeah, like there's a. I think when we even talked about it back when we were talking about the Stadia, we talked about it. There's a website. I think it's called like GoogleGraveyard.com or something like that. And it's killed by Google.com, I think is what it is. And it literally is all of the shit that Google has killed. And some of it made sense. It was just stuff that just didn't pick up, nobody used it, never really took off, like Google
Some
Plus.
of it was just bad timing.
And they tried hard with Google Plus. Fuck Google Plus. Could they use Google Plus to fuck up YouTube?
Yeah, and the thing is,
they forced everyone to have a damn Google Plus account, then killed it off, and they fucked up YouTube for a couple years.
Yeah. But the thing is, where the real problem is everybody talks about, when they talk about stuff that didn't make sense that Google kills, they always talk about Google Reader. Because Google Reader
was great.
It was great. Everybody used it, and they still fucking killed it off for no apparent reason. And to this day, that's been more than 10 years since they did that, and people are still upset about it. Anyway, that's the thing, is that Google does not have a very good strategy of making lasting technology. Comparatively, Microsoft has a problem with not killing shit that should be killed. So
they get like 10% of their market has some demand on a certain product.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, I guess we'll keep it around for another day.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about things that Microsoft should kill, I started a change.org petition just as a troll. I'm just dropping it in the chat here. Everybody can sign it.
What?
Disregard the Nathan Drake thing. It's just a joke.
It's essentially his petition to get them to make that one game
to kill the Xbox console and bring all the games just to PC. Just get rid of the console.
I mean, technically, they kind of are already doing that. I mean, you guys seen the Series X? It's just a PC tower. Let's be honest.
We don't know what kind of. I mean, the VCR Box One is just a low-end PC, a very low-end PC. It launched with a very low-end PC.
Yeah.
I mean, most people call it the Xbox One. I think it's the VCR box. I think that's appropriate.
Here's a bit, as I was looking into legality. Here's where the console's different than the PC, because since the original Xbox, hardware has been more or less matched up with PC. The original Xbox had a slightly different processor, it's very specialized, but other than that,
the 360 was power PC. Power PC though.
Yeah.
So is the OG Xbox, sort of.
Oh, is it? But I heard it was x86. That's what I heard anyway.
Nope, it was Power PC.
No, okay. Yeah, but now obviously there was that kind of slightly unique aspect about it. Although there was still getting into the PC environment, and of course you have the PS4, Xbone, are exactly fucking PCs. The software is what makes them stand out of not being PCs now. Almost every single software device you can legally modify yourself but gaming consoles. And Sony's the one that pushed this fucking legal so fucking hard.
Actually,
games either, because when you try to do games, Take-Two comes after you. Fuck Take-Two for killing off the port for Red Dead Redemption 1 to PC, since they won't do it.
So here's the thing, just throw it out there. The whole, like, you guys remember back, like, those on game consoles in particular, they would have that tape over the screw holes that would say, you know, if this breaks, your warranty is void type of thing, right? So
then they made that illegal.
They actually threw that out. Yeah, that legally is not allowed.
That falls into the right to repair, but the software modification still holds up. It is illegal to software modify your gaming consoles. Any other electronic device, you can completely redo the software legally any way you want, but gaming consoles. Those are the only ones that are in that exclusive bracket. No, I looked into it a few weeks ago.
No, I was going to say, I'm pretty certain Mac OS you probably can't do shit to, because it's Apple.
No, well, there may be some restrictions, but legally you can wipe out your iPhone and put on some kind of crap Android that somehow works. You'd have to hack the shit out of it.
I'm going to need you to put some respect on Android.
You can legally do that, but you cannot legally put Linux on your PS4.
Yeah.
And watch me.
Yeah.
You can do it, but it's not going to be legal.
I don't give a shit.
Do it. Do it. That's
You
so
really
important.
think
Do it,
legality
do it.
stops me?
Yeah. Well, in any case, moving on to something that Kev, now that Kev's here, we can finally talk about. And that is the absolute unabated failure that was Resident Evil 2's remake.
I think you just said peace, bitch. I'm out. That's the equivalent of dropping the mic on a podcast.
Kev, care to talk about why did Resident Evil 2's remake fail so badly? Like, what was it about?
I don't remember it failing. I remember Twitter saying it's game of the year across the board.
That's actually what this story is about. I just wanted, because he thought Rose said that it was a failure and she didn't. That's what happens when he doesn't read.
That's what happens when I didn't have my glasses on.
Yeah, but
I woke up late. I woke up at like 11:30 this morning, and I'm looking at this and just waking up. I fell asleep on my PC chair. I'm like, the fuck, Rose? What are you smoking?
By the way,
I put on my glasses and read Xaiphen's response.
By the way, I would like to shout out to Cats in the chat. Yes, Xaiphen does have a magnificent beard and or mustache-oid thing, but it's actually an alien that has possessed his body, so he can't take credit for it.
I'm still gonna move that he shaves it.
You know what? I own that alien.
I've been practicing.
Only because he thinks his mustache is magnificent.
I've been practicing my my Mark Zuckerberg smile. Anyway, so Resident Evil 2 was a remake, and we've seen a ton of remakes before. Like that's not new. Companies remaking games is an easy way for them to cash in on nostalgia and charge people again for a game that they already bought. But in this particular case, it was actually notable because the game kept true to its kind of like roots, right? It was kind of the same game.
It is an excellent remake.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that that a lot of companies are complaining about.
I complain about a lot of these while we're talking about cashing in on nostalgia. Is that we started up the generation with these lazy remasters where they literally just ported the PC version to console, capped it at 60 FPS, and upped the resolution.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, that's that bullshit. And then console players go, man, why don't PC players have to pay for this shit? Because we can already do that to our games.
Yeah.
They might have ran an E&B on it.
Yeah.
And speaking of remake, I've been playing Warcraft 3 Reforged 2. I'm in the beta for it. Yes, I had to pre-order to get in. I'm not proud of myself, but I did what I had to do. That remaster is actually amazing. A remake. It's a full. It's not a full remake in the respect that Resident Evil 2 is. It's primarily a completely overhauled graphics.
President Xi thanks you for your continued support of Blizzard. I didn't include it in here.
Like we already talked about this. I was already planning on getting that game regardless.
Yeah, and also just
wait, who did you say Winnie the Pooh?
Yes, I did. Yes. Since we're already banned in China, I guarantee you.
Nailed it.
I would like to take this moment to detour for just a moment to bring back up. By the way, guys, don't forget that when push came to shove, and one of the esports players took his moment to support people that are trying to resist an oppressive dictatorial government from taking over their small city. Someone wanted to support them, and of course, Blizzard's reaction was, "We don't support those dumb gamers trying to say political stuff. Take all his money away and ban him. No, nothing for you." Any case, I just want to take that moment to just remind everybody that Blizzard chose the Chinese government over gamers. Just remember that. Now we can go back to Resident Evil 2 because that's a lot more fun. But yeah, so something I do think that is of note there is that they seem to do a good job of actually like you hear like Disney, for example, like a lot of Disney fans and shit like that are like bitching and complaining because Disney can't seem to get Star Wars right. Star Wars fans are rabid as fuck, man. They are passionate about Star Wars, and that's like because it's been around. It is a cultural icon, right? And the fans have been diehard fans for sometimes.
Well, Disney Star Wars movies have been kind of dog shit.
Exactly. Like Disney doesn't seem like they kind of almost seem like maybe they wanted to approach it from like a not a Marvel area, because that didn't. I can't say that. They fucked up a lot
of stuff with Marvel too.
They're just trying to make it as generic as possible so it fits all audience.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. That's one of the things.
Problem is that
extreme PG.
If I can make the criticism about like Disney's movies in general, like including the Marvel group, it's that they don't really challenge you in any significant way as a viewer, right? They don't challenge your viewpoints. They're pretty
safe,
tame, digestible. Yeah, they're pretty tame. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some dark shit that happens in a lot of those movies. Not disagreeing there. Just saying that for the most part, they're pretty safe.
The problem I have with, and this is just kind of a lot of stuff, games, movies, a lot of comics, is that we've lost the niche aspect of them. Star Wars back in the day was, it was popular, but it was still a niche audience. You know, I think that's, and now it's like companies, and Jim Sterling says this a lot, we don't want some of the money, we want all of the money. And I feel like all the corporations are doing this. They're trying to make all these things that just appeal to everyone. And they appeal to a lot of people, but they don't really satisfy anyone. It's like, oh, I'm going to watch this because it's Star Wars, and my nostalgia kicks in. And then when you get like the hardcore Star Wars fans, they're like, this is kind of trash.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
And the problem is like they're even doing that with gaming. Like they did with the most recent Halo games, for example. 4 and 5, when 343 took over.
Look at Outer Worlds.
I love the Outer Worlds.
How sterile that game was.
I don't think I didn't feel like the Outer Worlds was sterile. I felt like it didn't have the Fallout edge.
No, the thing about the Outer Worlds is that it wasn't a bad game. It wasn't bad in any way. It was just safe. That's all. It was
very safe. I'll give you that. It was very safe.
Yeah, when both Rose, myself, and a few others like Laura as well, all were criticizing the game, none of us said it was bad. It's a good game. It's just, like I said, they're nothing like when you're dealing with kind of almost cyberpunky type themes like that. Cyberpunk is very fucking political, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things is that it's very political, and that's something that's very well known. And there's a lot of cyberpunk themes that are handled in that game. Well, I shouldn't say handled because they're not handled.
They're not handled. It's very safe in that respect.
Yeah.
Like the edgiest thing they had was Havarti being she was trying to come out as a lesbian, but I'm sorry for that spoiler, but she was so like scared of it, or not even that of like her love interest, and I'm just like, why do you like?
That was like the most.
Also crazy.
Actually, so she didn't come out as lesbian. It was two things. It was that she was like,
she was already a lesbian.
She wasn't trying to come out, but the main thing that they were trying to tackle on there is they were trying to tackle asexuality, and
they did it shittily.
It was really
I caught that she didn't want to have sex.
Yeah.
But I also caught that she preferred relationships with women.
Yeah, there wasn't really any. The thing is that they didn't really specifically say that she preferred women. It was just there's a woman she likes. So the assumption is that she's lesbian, but maybe she is, maybe she's not, and that's not really important. I personally, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
They did it was shit.
But that was like the most controversial, air quotes, not really controversial thing in that damn game.
Yeah, and that was so safe. Like, and the thing is that, like, to their credit, but not to their credit, because they fucked it up horribly. At least BioWare has tried to to tackle some controversial gender topics. They did it horribly.
I hope they never do it again.
Don't make me head desk. If you say Andromeda in the trans character, I am going to have to shoot.
I'm thinking Andromeda as a whole.
No,
Andromeda and Inquisition.
It didn't start with Andromeda, guys. Let's take a moment to remember.
It started with Mass Effect 3.
No, actually, because the thing is, in Mass Effect 3, Cortez was actually handled pretty well.
I thought you meant where they were trying to move in that direction. Like that started with Mass Effect 3. I didn't even see Mass Effect 1, where they were really trying to get you not to think of the Asari as these hot blue chicks who everybody wants to bang, when realistically they're hot blue chicks that everybody wants to bang.
No, what I'm talking about is I'm actually referring to Krem.
Oh, I knew you were talking about Krem. I was just saying that they've been at it for a while.
Krem was written better than whatever the fucking abomination.
Krem written better than almost the entire cast of Andromeda.
No, here's the thing. Krem wasn't written badly as a character unto himself. Krem was fine. The problem was that cringeworthy PSA, the more you know. Like, I saw a rainbow with the more you know flying over the characters' heads as they were doing it, where you, as the main protagonist, at one point in time, are given a series of ranging from asshole to ignorant jerk responses regarding Krem being transsexual. You don't get to say, that's cool, or, hey, I don't really care one way or another. No, you either get to be ignorant, a jerk, or a jerk and ignorant. And
well, it's like transgender, not transsexual. Those are two entirely different things that we aren't going to get into on the podcast, and I think we got Xaiphen rage quit.
Yep.
There you go.
But I need to know the difference.
Well,
honestly, I didn't know the difference either. So
I'll talk about it in our.
Let us know. Talk about it later.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in any case, yes. Excuse me. Wrong term. But the point is that they were making this big PSA on, it's okay, we accept you as you are. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna throw up. This is written by someone who clearly doesn't know a single person that's trans.
Well, the worst part was they revolved Krem's entire identity around it.
I hate when they do that in games and movies.
Yep.
You can't do that.
You're more than a gender or sexuality.
Yep.
Yes.
Wow,
I mean, you guys know me better and know my identity is more than just I'm a trans female.
Yep.
I didn't even know you were a trans female until you came on the podcast. I had no idea. I didn't give a shit. You know, I think that had to do mostly because I don't think I ever talked to her in voice chat either.
Well, it's not only that, but I had introduced myself with the Apex Spec Ops as full-fledged female.
I wouldn't have cared either way.
Well, yeah, and Rose, you remember my response whenever you said you're trans.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the quote was, "I don't give a fuck." that's
the preceding the first part of this line doesn't quite apply, but I still love the line from the movie Out Cold when the one guy finally came out.
Yes, we know.
Galifianakis' response was, "Everybody knows, nobody cares."
Yep, exactly. It's like
that universally. Unfortunately, it.
Yeah. The thing is that I that said, I'm rolling this in since we rolled into BioWare. Let's roll this into Anthem, since that was a 2019 flop, and then go backwards from there, talking about kind of Anthem's, or I should say BioWare's decline, from where they were in 2012 with Mass Effect 3 to where they are today. This is going to be a sad moment of the podcast. So Anthem came out this year.
Right here, I've been playing Anthem recently because I don't know how I think EA's desperate for my money because they gave me a free month of Origin access. I just got on there. It's like, hey, you've got Origin access. Like, okay, I guess I'll play some Anthem until it runs out. And it's a fun game.
Yeah,
it's not worth the money because it's a free to play model. Should not have an upfront payment on there. If they make it free to play with the microtransactions, then I'll take it up long term after the fact. But I'm never going to pay money for this game. But it is one of the greatest disappointments of, not disappointments. It is a letdown. Andromeda was a disappointment. This is a letdown. It's like so much potential behind it, and I'm playing it, and I still see potential behind it as I'm playing it, but I know it's only going to go so far before I'm like, and that's it. That's all there is to it.
Well, I mean, so there's there are rumors that they are doing a full rebuild of the game, or to some degree a rebuild. What that will look like, is it going to be like a what was that game from a couple years ago?
It's going to be Anthem remastered, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, PC, and Switch, and they're going to make you pay $60 for it again to fix their fuck ups.
Yeah,
it's going to actually have some diversity in it.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing: is that now this again to me contrasting versus Resident Evil 2's remake. Resident Evil 2's remake was so great because Capcom, right? Capcom? Yes?
Oh, I don't think it has to be because Capcom.
No. I'm saying that's who made Resident Evil, right? Capcom?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Capcom actually took a few fucking minutes to understand what their fans liked about Resident Evil and made sure they captured that accurately when they were remaking it. In other words, don't change key things that their fans love about a game, right?
Well, if you think about it, people have been asking for a Resident Evil 2 remake since the original Resident Evil remake came out.
Yeah.
You mean remaster?
Yeah, remaster, remake. Well, they called it the original one, the remake of the original one. Then they remastered it. Called the GameCube version. So yeah, when that happened, people were talking about that, especially because people didn't like 5 and 6, and we're on 4. Some people love 4, some people hate 4.
Yeah.
So they were like, can we get like controls like Resident Evil 5, but feels like Resident Evil 2, which most people agree is the best Resident Evil, myself included.
Yeah, well, the thing is,
it was fantastic.
They actually listened to what people said and translated that into a game. And hey, shockingly, it works. And everybody loved it. The game was a resounding success. Mm-hmm. Anthem is an example of the opposite. What happens when you are too isolated and disconnected from your customer base that you don't really know what it is that you're aiming for. And I think that was a lot of the fault of it.
The difference right there is one's a customer base, the other one's a product.
Well, and
my question is, didn't they learn from Mass Effect 3?
No. So here's the thing.
Let me rephrase that. Why didn't they learn from Mass Effect 3?
Their learning experience, and we're going to get to this as we roll back, their learning from Mass Effect 3 was to start withdrawing themselves from direct interfacing with players.
So they took the outrage as, hey, let's not talk to you.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Because the thing is with Anthem, when it came out, and as I understand, it has improved somewhat. Like they've made minute improvements that have made it a little bit better. It's still really, you have two behemoth games competing with Anthem's style of gameplay. The online multiplayer MMO looter shooter type concept, where pretty much what you're doing is just grinding for loot, right? It's really all it is. There are two juggernauts that are competing with you. You have Destiny 2 and Warframe. And they're fucking massive. I mean, aside from Borderlands isn't where I'm going with this. Follow me on here. Borderlands isn't the same style. It's still, even though it's an open concept like looter, it's still kind of a linear story, right? You go from point A to point B in a story progression, whereas Destiny and Warframe are both kind of the open, you're just grinding for shit generalistically, not really following any particular story.
No, Destiny does have a story to it.
It does.
Just,
that's not what people are playing. Like they play the story. They play the story, and then they're doing the grindy missions after that. Same with Warframe. Right. Warframe has story content too. 90% of people play it once, and then that's it. So the point is, though, is that those two games are juggernauts for that genre of gameplay, and they're both free. At least free to download and install. Everything has a price. Nothing's really free. But the point is that they have that accessibility where you don't have to pay $60 up front to play the game. Borderlands costs money up front. Anthem costs money up front. And as a result, both of those won't have that same like player base that like Destiny is like, I think, one of the top games on Steam since it launched on Steam. Like
it's been in the top. It's lived in the top 100. Yeah,
and like I think with Warframe, it's been in like the top 20 top Steam games for 5 years.
Oh shit! I'm looking at it now. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on Steam right now.
Destiny.
Yeah. It's behind Dota 2, CS:GO, PUBG, GTA 5, and then Destiny 2, and then Siege.
Yep.
Which means we feel kind of like a jackass because I still don't really like Terrorist Hunt.
Yeah. The thing is that Siege is primarily focused on the PvP, but that's another topic. The point is that Anthem really didn't read the market very well before kind of getting into it, right? Because yes, you have like Borderlands coming out, but Borderlands has a different demographic, right? There's a core audience of Borderlands fans that want that Borderlands feel, you know, that cel-shaded, like kind of
a little bit of a cult following on that.
Yeah, exactly. So they can charge up front, and people actually will buy into that even if they charge up front.
So it's one of those things like I say about Diablo. I'll play Path of Exile. Path of Exile is cool. There's things I really like about Path of Exile, but god damn it, I just want Diablo.
And that's the thing, is that you can have a game that looks and feels like Borderlands, and people are going to be like, it's not Borderlands, right? They're trying to remember what that game was that was trying to be Borderlands and failed.
I'm fearful for BioWare right now because I want another good Mass Effect game, and I don't think we're going to get it before they get shut down.
So here's the thing. Now let's roll back, because obviously...
And that scares me.
So
especially the multiplayer.
With Anthem coming out and flopping and just being a very clear indication that the game developers weren't disconnected, were very disconnected from their player base. Not long after that, it kind of revealed that, hey, it's not just their player base that they're disconnected from. They're just disconnected all inside too. Like things were not going well inside BioWare. And this wasn't new. This was something that had been going on for the past about 7 years, or more. Essentially, it seems like it was a slow cancer that started the moment that a certain 2-letter acronym company bought them out. And rolling back to 2012, whenever they released Mass Effect 3, things were going so well for BioWare. It was just kind of like, man, we can't do anything wrong. And the ending controversy of Mass Effect 3 hit. And instead of the response of saying, like, they were like, okay, cool, we'll make it better. But alongside them releasing the extended cut DLC to kind of fix things a little bit,
they said, no, fuck y'all, we ain't talking to y'all no more.
Well, yeah, like during that process, they fired their community managers off of BSN. A few of the developers still interacted with people, but sure enough, they started phasing out BSN as well. And sure enough, within, I think, a couple of years, BSN was shut down. Mm-hmm. And by the time Andromeda came out, there was no more BSN. There was no way to directly communicate with the developers. Oh, you could hit them up on Twitter, with 100 other fucking people spamming them on Twitter as well. And
to be clear, for those of you that aren't aware of BSN's, the BioWare social network, it was their forum. And actually, I remember they said back in the day when they shut it down. Oh yeah, contact us on the BioWare or Mass Effect subreddit page.
Yep.
Which, I mean, in fairness, some developers actually do. Like, shout out to Creative Assembly for this one. They are active on the Total War subreddit.
Yep.
Very active there. But I don't really see BioWare developers on the Mass Effect or BioWare subreddits like that. Now, granted, I lurk there. I don't really go there too often. But when I do go there, I don't see them.
No, the thing is that they started off like showing the intention of wanting to do that, but you could tell just the way that Andromeda was handled. And this is a person, I was one of those YouTubers that was streaming. I did a stream with BioWare for Mass Effect Andromeda, and just from my experience going from Mass Effect 3 to Inquisition to Andromeda, you could tell things were different. Like there was something like all their responses were super PR filtered. There was a very clear, like, they were trying to not really make any personable statements. And I took that to be a response, and most people won't remember this, but way, way, way back in the Inquisition days, when BSN was still around, the first DLC that got released for Mass Effect, or for Dragon Age Inquisition's multiplayer, was called Destruction, which is kind of like naming a cat Loki. You don't know what's going to happen, but you know you're going to fuck something up. And sure enough, they released this in December. They released the game in November, and they released this DLC in December, and then all promptly went on winter vacation before bug checking the game after launch. And it broke a lot of shit, made the multiplayer nigh unplayable for nearly a month. Yeah, and it killed the multiplayer.
I think it was longer than that.
Well, it was a month before a certain event happened, and then it was a few weeks after that before BioWare actually started doing something about it. So there was one of the developers that apparently got back earlier or whatever, I don't know, don't care, but tried to at least field some interference, collect some information, and get some stuff. But of course, it had been a month of people on BSN saying, hey, shit's broken, where the hell are you guys? So by that time, people were pretty fucking upset. You try ignoring somebody for a month when they're asking for your help, like kind of critically and urgently, and you ignore them for a month, you're going to find some people pretty pissed off at you. That's not toxic gamers. That's called people being annoyed because you're fucking ignoring them, right?
Right. They're pissed off because, hey, I gave you money for a working product. The product doesn't work, and you're not doing shit about it.
Yeah. And so essentially, this one particular developer tried to get in there, field some interference, but this is the reason why you hire a community manager, right? Developers are hired for their ability to develop games, whether they're an artist or a level designer or scripter or whatever they're doing. They have an expertise with developing those technology pieces, not necessarily communicating with angry players. That's where community managers come in. They're supposed to be good at wrangling angry people, kind of, handling things in a positive way and kind of dissipating that anger, right? That's a good community manager, right?
I'm a people person. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Exactly. But yeah, so that's not how this was handled. This was handled with the person was trying to collect the information, but was doing so in a very condescending, like, I really don't believe that something's broken, but I'm going to at least do my due diligence and collect this info. And that tone really came off as, like, one of the more impolite, I'd call it, YouTubers that was also part of that community, kind of was not very kind about it. Made a video, even calling that person out. Big, like, kind of egg on the face of BioWare and that developer. And and their response was to ban that YouTuber from BSN permanently. And it's like...
all because they said something critical.
They called out that developer for not doing a good job of communicating. It's like, hey, if you're going to put yourself out there and you're going to communicate publicly, you are speaking as the company. So when someone criticizes you as not doing well communicating, your response is to ban them. That doesn't look very good. And that kind of really put this sour note for a lot of people in the community as, well, they're not really good at communicating and this shit isn't going to go well. It wasn't until Luke Barrett, who is one of the developers there, who actually did have people skills, came in and actually managed to wrangle things in and turn things to the most positive they could be towards the end. But by then, things turned south. And I think by then, higher-ups in BioWare were already like, yeah, this BSN thing isn't good. We don't like that. And I think that was the death knell for BSN. Like, it was already in the process of getting killed even before, that game was done. And I think, yeah.
Well, devs are not generally people per people. There's a reason why they really like to be left alone and do their own thing.
Well, I mean, they're usually divas that think very highly of themselves, but that's just my personal experience. As Kev caught my rant, I have opinions about developers. I'm not going to get into it. That's not the point here. The point is that this was just one iceberg. Like, at the time, it seemed like a big deal. But apparently, the entire development of Inquisition was toxic as hell from the get-go. Like, this whole BioWare magic thing that essentially it's like, we can just fuck off for, 2 years developing this game. We can just get it done in 6 months because BioWare magic. I mean, look, we made these Mass Effect games and Dragon Age Origins was a success. And you guys remember Baldur's Gate? Yeah, none of you guys were actually born yet then, but whatever.
You manage you guys now. I have a new business. Work with me here. We're going to make money by procrastinating.
That works?
That is literally both the story of Anthem and the story... Well, not Anthem. That's the story of Andromeda. So we're going to fuck off for 5 years and then finish the game in the last 18 months. Anthem was we're going to start making the game. Hold on a second. No, wait. We're going to make this other... No, wait. Hold on. We're going to make... we're going to make... Yeah. That was Anthem.
Anthem was a Star Citizen that somehow got released.
Yeah, well...
Star Citizen got released, kind of.
No, it didn't.
Early access.
No. Bad Kev.
It is still
I'm saying letting people play it, so it's been released.
Yeah. So in any case, though, I think that the kind of almost downfall of BioWare, like, at the beginning of this decade, BioWare was the fucking premier developer. They had just, in 2010, they had released, Mass Effect 1, and, 2010. They had just released Mass Effect 1 the year before, and they released Dragon Age Origins, I think, in 2010, if I remember correctly.
Mass Effect 2 came out in January 2010.
Oh, okay. So no, it was Origin.
Yeah, Dragon Age Origins had been out for about a year at that point.
Okay, so it's 2009.
Mass Effect 1 came out in 2007, 2008?
Gotcha. Okay. So they were sitting pretty fucking high at that point, right? They just converted, obviously, over to EA, and that might have ruffled some feathers and whatnot. But still, they were starting off this decade. They were king shit. And now... When you say, I really want another Mass Effect game, or someone says Dragon Age 4, blah, 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 I'm like, we have to level set expectations here. The Anthem, or the BioWare that made Dragon Age Origins and that made Mass Effect 1 and 2 no longer exists.
I'll take the BioWare that made Mass Effect 3.
70-80% of the BioWare that made Mass Effect 3 no longer exists.
Can we get the gameplay guys that did Andromeda and get some of the writers to come back?
All the guys that were responsible, for example, Drew Karpyshyn, the mastermind behind the Mass Effect universe, is
I'm just
gone
saying-
and is never coming back. He's made it
I'm
clear.
just saying, send the blank check to his house
He
and
ain't
say,
gonna do it.
we want a good another good Mass Effect trilogy. You put a value in there.
I highly suspect it was not
Honestly,
the paycheck.
Kev, your best bet is to look forward and hope they can maybe salvage something of Andromeda to
The
some.
thing is, I don't think they can. I don't think they can.
Yeah.
I don't think so either, but that's your best hope right there from anything from BioWare is that they can salvage Anthem or whatever comes next to the point of giving you that enjoyment that you had from Mass Effect.
Well, the thing is that
I
like
think I have to go what Mort told me a few months ago. Stop hoping for new BioWare and just play Greedfall.
I mean, here's the thing: is that there are going to be other developers that are going to have that creative spark that BioWare had back in the day. You got to look for those developers. At this point, BioWare is kind of just a corporate developer number 642. At this point, what we're going to see out of BioWare is the same kind of recycled stuff that we see out of every other big AAA developer. It's going to be very approachable, very bland and digestible, and that's it. It's not going to be necessarily bad. It's not going to be amazing, right? And I think that's really the summary of, unfortunately, where
like the new Star Wars movies, it's going to be meh.
Yeah, that's really it. Is that got a level set expectation? That's BioWare now. All of the people the veterans that were part of the studio back whenever they were really creative with their concepts, and the thing is that even back in their heyday, they took a lot of shortcuts, because if you looked at like the style of story structure from like say Jade Empire versus Mass Effect 1 versus KOTOR, you kind of see there's a very similar mission and story structure in those games. They kind of all follow a similar pattern. So it was a good formula, and it worked, and it was very enjoyable. So I can't really criticize that, but I would never call them necessarily innovators, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But Mass Effect was innovative. Mass Effect was innovative.
Well, it did have some very unique aspects. Like how many RPG shooters did we have at that time? I
think that was the original Mass Effect was, if not the first, one of the first, or at least one of the first very successful.
Yeah, it was a AAA budget, like blockbuster RPG shooters. I think it was probably the first and only of its kind, because Mass Effect 2 came along. It was no longer an RPG shooter. It was just a shooter.
Yeah.
I'm glad you finally acknowledged that, because I've been saying that and people have been arguing, no, Mass Effect 2 is an RPG.
I've never once...
No, I didn't say you did.
argued.
I said people have been.
Yeah,
I've been saying it for years. Mass Effect 2 is a third-person action game with RPG elements, just like Assassin's Creed is now. Just like, say, The Last of Us, well, they have stealth elements too.
Okay,
like,
Shadow of Mordor,
all the
Shadow of...
they just have RPG elements now.
Yeah, like that.
Like Fallout, that hurts to say, but like Fallout.
I mean, let's be honest. Like Skyrim and Fallout are just third/first person action adventure games with RPG elements and stealth elements. There's and that's the kind of same.
And nowadays we have RPGs that don't even have skill trees, and they're still called RPGs. Like, what is an RPG anymore? People told me my career mode in NBA 2K is an RPG because it has a skill tree.
No, you said that, Kev, and then
No. People have told me that. I'm repeating what I was told. I'm like, no, NBA 2K is not an RPG.
This is what the hell face.
Well, I think I hope the guy was saying it to troll. This was like a few years ago, but a guy back when Facebook groups were hot. That's the guy there told me that. Yeah, because he asked me. At the time I was mostly playing like a lot of RPGs. I was like, well, it was kind of dumb.
The thing is that a lot of people say RPG, because the thing is RPG's always been a very hard to pin down and hard to find genre.
I don't think so.
Well, no, the thing is that because RPGs span a lot of, like, RPG isn't a genre, so to speak. It is a mechanical style.
Right.
Whereas the genre is it a horror? Is it sci-fi? Is it, what's the setting, right? And I think that's where a lot of people get confused. It's they assume
people see the skill tree and say RPG.
Exactly. And that's where a lot of them get you is they say, we got a skill tree. It's like, okay, and it's not there's no mechanical complexity.
RPG goes into, are you playing a role?
Well, and the thing is that when you define it,
where's the decision making? But then again, a lot of RPGs now don't even have choice mechanics.
Well, the thing is that, so what you're saying there is you could really say, oh, if you're playing a role, well, in that case, NBA My Career, you're playing a role. Guard. Yeah, your role is playing as this basketball player as he goes from nobody to famous. That's a role. But that's when you try to really get into the generics of it. The actuality is that a role-playing game usually has a mechanic system that has a set of rules, and then you are playing as a character with some sort of agency over how you progress using those mechanics and using that roles. Oftentimes they'll have features like classes and things like that. That's pretty traditional, although even as far back as Morrowind, which was an RPG, there was still an amount of freeform there. They had classes, but that was just kind of giving you a starting off point, because after that point you could do pretty much whatever the hell else you wanted. You didn't have to stick to that class. But I think that's kind of the over time they kind of merged RPG mechanics and action adventure mechanics because we can get both audiences. And I call that the Bethesda effect.
I don't have a problem with the open-ended
jump
kind
a mile into the air and punch somebody.
When I think of like the open-ended RPGs, I think of like Dark Souls. Dark Souls is a very open-ended RPG. You don't think so?
I think Dark Souls is a very good and tactical action adventure game.
Oh, I'd go as far as saying it's action RPG.
We might,
yeah. Vein of like a Diablo.
I might.
Fable 2 was an open-ended RPG.
Yeah. But here's the thing: is that the problem with these mechanic systems is they are malleable and they do change over time. What people consider to be an RPG in the year 2000 was different than what they consider in 2010. In 2020, it's something else, right? And that's going to continue to evolve and change over time. It's just...
You think they're still going to be making RPGs in 2030? Well, they don't make them. They hardly make them now.
Well, they're going to be making games that are called RPGs.
They don't even make a lot of those anymore. They're just action games.
Whether we consider them to be RPGs is another thing. And I would disagree. I mean, you look at this year. You had Outer Worlds. You had Greedfall. You had that other game that I'm trying to remember the name of. There was quite a few really good RPG games that came out this year.
Are you thinking of a Plague Tale: Innocence? I heard that was a pretty decent RPG.
Yes. Yeah, Plague Tale: Innocence.
Yeah, and Greedfall and Plague Tale are the same publisher too, so that might be part of it.
Yeah.
And I think where you're going to start seeing a lot more niche games like that. Yeah. And, where they go toward like a core target audience is the AA market. Are the independent games. People talk about the Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds is very AA. Yeah, it was published by 2K, but they didn't spend a lot of money on it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess depends on. I have a different, terminology for what I call AA versus AAA. I consider AAA to be anything that's published by an independent publisher that is not the developer. Right? If the developer,
I would consider that indie. I would consider AA being something more middle market. It's a smaller game, smaller intention, smaller budget. We're not going for the masses. Although
so what you're talking about there is the games that are those big budget, high grade games, like the next guy we're going to talk about here.
Like Anthem.
Like Cyberpunk 2077. I consider those to be what are called blockbuster. right? That's
Yeah.
that's the movie
And I
term.
consider most AAA games to be blockbuster too.
The thing is I classify AAA as who's publishing it. Blockbuster is a level of budget that goes into it. Like when you're spending like $60+ million on a game, that's when you start getting into that blockbuster territory. That's where you get the Cyberpunks. That's where you get the Call of Duties. That's where you get all those big time, big name games that are always like yearly events or whatever, right? The names that stand out every year. Those are the blockbusters, right?
Right.
And that's my own opinion. That's not like this is what the words mean. That's just the way I define it. That's usually the way that a lot of times the way that the movie industry does it is that they actually classify indie movies as super small budget, and then they don't really have like a quote unquote AAA term, but then they have blockbuster that's on the other far end of the spectrum as being super big budget, and then a bunch of movies in between. But yeah, any case,
budget, the intent of a super big.
Oh yeah, especially when you're talking about like Marvel movies. Yeah, they spend like $200-300 million and then they get back $1 billion. There's been a couple of the Marvel movies that have grossed $1 billion. Like they are big business, big returns on those.
Avatar was a big benchmark at that point in time when it came out with a $500 million budget, and then ended up, I think its total box office worldwide was quadruple that. But it was such a huge deal on the budget that was done.
Well, the thing, if I actually saw someone do a like this little this animated infographic that showed movie box offices revenue over time, and it kind of showed like a little graph that would like keep resizing and reshaping as pretty much each of the new Marvel movies comes out and goes zoop, zoop, and this one's making more than this one, and so on. Anyway, speaking of blockbusters though, and turning this to the decade of CD Projekt Red, and how they have gone from pretty much like starting the decade, they were a AA studio. They were solidly a AA studio. Witcher 2 was a solid AA game as by Kev's classification. It was a niche game, relatively small budget, but decent quality. You know, I played it back in I can't remember what year it was now. I played it back in the day on Xbox 360, and I remember it. I was like, man, this is a pretty good, fun game. I liked it. And then this little game that not a lot of people heard of called Witcher 3 came out. And
nobody cares about indie games, bro.
Yeah, it's not Call of Duty, so I don't care about it personally. Nobody actually heard of this game, Witcher 3. Nobody really cares about it. In any case, that obviously changed CD Projekt's like entire landscape in everything after that, because obviously they went from relatively small-time AA developer to where now they are the on the European stock market, they are actually the top growing company on the entire European stock market. Not just gaming companies, all companies.
Yep.
And it's like, damn. You want to talk about people that have made right decisions for a long time and continue to just keep rolling on, right?
There's an advantage to being consumer friendly.
Yep.
There's a monetary advantage from a business perspective of being consumer friendly.
And I mean, when you look at like in the case of whenever you see like this is a public company. So technically, gamers are not their quote-unquote customers. The investors are their customers. And somehow investors keep dumping money into them, despite the fact that they're very friendly to consumers. It's weird. It's almost like a public company can be profitable and get a really high stock price, even with being consumer-friendly. It's the alien concept to me with the American corporations. Yeah.
There's the problem though. Of if they grow enough, they may end up becoming anti-consumer over time. Because I've seen a lot of other companies that have started out with that kind of attitude about them, and then once the money started rolling in heavy, then they started having to change the way they did business because they were too big to be nice.
Yeah, I think their current market capitalization is almost $7 billion. So they're doing pretty well. But I think it might be like once you start getting in the multi-hundreds, that's whenever, like once you go over $100 million market cap, that's when things start getting a little different.
That's where you got fuck you money?
Yeah, because for a business,
it's hard to tell at this point where there's an actual line to cross, because some businesses still do better than others when it comes to. Some of them have had to take some hard hits before they at least put on a consumer-friendly face, like Microsoft.
Well, and it's not so much a consumer-friendly face. I wouldn't say it's consumer-friendly. It's enterprise-friendly, to be frankly honest. And
still fuck you money.
And that was entirely around Satya Nadella. That's entirely who's responsible for that. Once they got Steve Ballmer out of Microsoft, and got Satya in there, that's whenever Microsoft really started to change. That's where, yeah. In any case, though, that aside, I think it's good, and yeah, there is that. What's that statement? You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, right? That Batman, or the Dark Knight, one of those guys, quote, which is a very apt quote, and it actually really resounds with a lot of companies. We've seen it over and over again, where a company will just end up becoming their own worst enemy in the end. I was thinking of this just looking at another game company today, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but a good example might be, Epic, right? Epic was like, nobody on our side of things really had heard of Epic so much because they hadn't really made much on the way of gaming fronts, and since like they made a few guys kind of quietly in the background, nothing that everybody was like, oh my gosh, Epic is amazing.
Gears of War. Huh? The original Gears of War, everybody said that it was about Epic was amazing. And that's the last time they said Epic was amazing was when they.
Yeah, and that nobody had really been talking about them before then. But the thing is that Epic was
Unreal Tournament.
Huh? Well, the thing is that Epic was, steadily growing as a juggernaut in the background the whole time, because they were making 5% of all the revenue of every game that was made with the Unreal Engine. Which is just building up fuck you money all day. Like their estimated annual revenue is somewhere around $15 billion, which is more than CD Projekt's entire market capitalization. So that says anything. The thing is that with them, they came out and they released Fortnite. Everybody loves them. And then they let Tim Sweeney on Twitter, and then things start going sideways for him. I do hope that Cyberpunk or that CD Projekt does not go that same route. They seem to have good head on their shoulders.
You gotta stop pronouncing their name properly. That's bothering me.
Like an actual person that is talked to a Polish person once in a while.
You using your naturalization and native language skills.
Yes. For those that don't know, the J is pronounced like a Y. It's CD Projekt.
It's project until I say otherwise.
Yeah.
See, Unreal. I'm just gonna have to go with Mort on this. It's Projekt.
It is Projekt. By
the way, guys, that because
I didn't say you were wrong.
No,
I was just making fun of you being right.
Rose will never admit that Kev is right. She needs to admit that Kev is right.
Listen, guys, I have something important to say. Okay, I've been playing a lot of Kingdom Come Deliverance, so I feel like I'm kind of an expert on that region of the world right now.
No.
Morris is on your side, Kev.
Team Kev, there we go.
Coming to a theater near you.
I can't be a good judge on that, because when I took the Army's language aptitude test, it was probably one of the lowest scores you could possibly.
I once also knew some languages.
I still speak a little
my
bit
mom
of
taught me
Yiddish.
French.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not the French you guys are thinking about, but she taught me French.
Mm-hmm. I know how to speak bad language in about 6 different languages. Anyway, moving on. Moving on from there. So yeah, I think that it is nice to see, like, the history of CD Projekt is actually really a cool story for those that don't know, of how they started off. They started off with this little side project where they were just remastering. I'm doing it deliberately at this point, just to be nice. In any case, though, they started off with this little side project where they were essentially localizing games that weren't released in Poland during the, it's not immediate post Soviet fall, but in the years after the fall of the Soviet Union, they were piracy was rampant. The primary market was the black market in Poland at that time.
I've been to countries like that.
Yes. I too also have seen people do side projects like that.
Project.
Anyway, no, jokes aside though, their kind of story, their backstory is pretty cool, and how they kind of grew into GOG was actually their original thing. And then they started publishing the games. And when you actually do the math, how much money they paid for the license to make the Witcher games, they've made something like a 7,200% return on that investment. It is
the author sold it for like $10,000, saying that it would never succeed as a.
Yeah, he hated games.
Yeah,
and of course they came later. And the thing is
he still feels the same way.
Well, no, he doesn't actually.
No.
He came after Project Red. It was either early last year or early this year, where he wanted to get more money from them, but he had negotiated. He wasn't in.
Well, here's the thing: is that
they did get thrown out, but CD Projekt Red Projekt did settle with him.
Project.
And so actually, they did a little bit more than that, and I'll actually kind of explain that, because I've been reading up on the whole story. So first of all, you got to put yourself in the position of the guys at CD Projekt, right? So they actually, the whole country, Poland, reveres that author, right? What's his name? Androwski? Is that it? I want to make sure.
Something like that.
Sapkowski. Make sure I'm saying it right. The whole country reveres him. He's like a national treasure there. Like, for example, Obama went to visit the president of Poland, and the president gave him one of the Witcher books as a present. Like that. Okay. That's how the gravitas of these books in that culture there. Like, it's big deal. Like, and so whenever Sapkowski comes at them and says, "I want more money. I'm going to sue you guys," or whatever, they're like, "Well, you can't sue us," but they don't want to be like, give this national treasure a big middle finger for being greedy. Like, if he's being greedy, not being greedy, whatever, that would be a bad idea for them as a Polish company, right? So they actually sat down and they said, "Listen, you don't need to sue us. Let's sit down. Let's work out a deal." And they actually recently announced that they actually secured a deal to continue making potentially future Witcher games, and give him a better cut rather than the $10,000. So they paid him retroactively for money that he would have made in profits off of it, and then also have a new deal going forward where he will get some royalties off of sales for future Witcher games as well. So happy ending. Nice. Yeah. Well, no, the thing, like I said, you got to put it in perspective. Like, this is like the person you revere most, your hero, like, gives you the ability to make something. You're like so like proud that you get to represent your country and for like and make this thing that's a national treasure. Everybody loves it, and then the creator of it comes and says, "Hey, I got kind of ripped off here." Like, you kind of put yourself in that shoes. It's like, yeah, it was his own stupidity. And on that front, personally, if it were me, I would have probably been like, dude, you made that choice. That's on you. But from their perspective, I can understand that they would be a little bit more conciliatory towards him, and it works out for the best, I think, to be frankly honest. That way they get to keep making Witcher games, because if they just told him to go sit and spin, I somehow doubt that they would have gotten to make any more Witcher games after that.
Sit and spin, bitch.
Yeah. But in any case, their next game, though, obviously Cyberpunk 2077, has an insane amount of hype behind it, which I based upon their past quality, I have some optimism for, but I always do get concerned when a ton of hype comes up for a game coming out, right? Like one of these blockbuster
time, any kind of product coming out.
Yes, exactly.
You got excessive amounts of hype. Like, I've been burned too many times.
Well, a lot of it is that, like, the hype starts building that it's going to be literally the second coming, this religious great experience, and it's like, what the hell is going to live up to this? Like, you've turned it into the point where it literally can't live up to the grade of hype that it has. And it's like...
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing since the GTX 2080 Ti!
Right?
Except the price.
Honestly, you know what? I know the hype that could kill the internet right now. All you need to do, or all they need to... They wouldn't need to do anything except just, put up HL3.
They didn't even do HL3. You just had your rumor that there was another Half-Life game coming.
Well, there's already rumor, but I mean, Valve saying like they're. I'm talking about Valve putting something out there that they are actually coming out with it, not just rumor mill bullshit. That would build up so much hype, it would break the internet.
Well, the thing is it would backfire on them horribly. In any case, moving on, let's talk about some.
We haven't gotten Half-Life 3.
Let's talk about a bad situation that actually turned out good, and then a good situation along the same lines. Let's talk about monetization models for a moment here, and let's talk about the rise and fall of loot boxes. Right now, obviously, technically, loot boxes started back with FIFA Ultimate Team in 2009, so technically falls outside this decade. However, their meteoric rise to popularity to where every big budget game was throwing them in there any way they could really didn't start until after the turn of the decade, right?
Until Overwatch.
It was before Overwatch. It was happening like this. Overwatch just happened to be a game where, and what the deal was with Overwatch is that's whenever people started to take notice. And it wasn't that.
I mean, I noticed them in Mass Effect 3.
Exactly. They were in Mass Effect 3, and I think back then people were just like, overall.
Overwatch was where the turning point with Overwatch was people who weren't even playing the game were taking notice because there was entire streams of just people opening loot boxes. Granted, there was a lot of other games that did that, but ones with that level of popularity, that's where that hit that.
Well, arguably that happened with a game that's even more popular than Overwatch ever was, and that would be CSGO. CSGO had people that would spend entire streams just rolling the dice on skins, right? And the controversies, they all started piling up. Like, this wasn't you can't point to like Overwatch or Battlefield 2 or any of these guys as being a singular event that changed everything.
They can, right? But it probably shouldn't.
It was a domino effect, right? So you had that controversy on the controversy that happened with the guy that was like running his own gambling website, and so he was. T.
Martin?
Yes. Yeah, so you had that controversy. You had some people like making some accusations on the manipulative nature of loot boxes in Overwatch. And then you had Battlefront and the pride and accomplishment thing. There was just a series of events that just dominoed into what now became the fall of loot boxes. But the thing is that, when we started off the decade, people didn't really mind that much. Like, hell, every MMO on the face of the fucking planet had those obnoxious, you would get boxes dropped that would take up inventory space. These lock boxes. Yes. And then you had to buy, with money, you had to buy the keys to unlock them. But they would take up inventory space. It was fucking obnoxious. I hated it. Ugh. But can we take a moment to pour one out for loot boxes?
Take a moment to see if Rose is actually trying to talk to us.
I mean, she might be trying, but nothing's coming out.
Yeah.
Her mouth might be constipated. I don't know.
All right, I think we can move on while Rose fixes her.
Yeah, exactly. So, in any case, though, with loot boxes, though, they eventually did start to fall.
Can we take a moment to trash Rose while she can't defend herself?
No, let's not do that. Let's keep it on point. We got to get moving. We're 15 minutes out, and we still have 4 more things to go on there.
Yeah, my wife's rushing me out the
door. So in any case, with the fall, like, things came to a head after Battlefield 2, and that became a really big thing. People actually started petitioning Disney about EA's license for Star Wars. It actually got governments involved. Holy shit, this actually turned into a really weird thing. And actually 15 European countries and the state of Washington signed a declaration against gambling in video games, including along with social casinos, which were themed games and apps that are perhaps literally gambling. And so, yeah, they're dead now. Like, I haven't seen, there are games that are played right now that still have loot boxes in them, but pretty much all new games I'm seeing coming out no longer are having loot boxes in them.
It's so sad. I missed the loot box.
Yeah. Which, speaking of a game that does monetization right, let's take a moment to talk about, in this decade, the rise of digital extremes and Warframe.
Well, thank you.
Kev doesn't like Warframe, but that's not the thing I want to talk about here.
Apparently the dog doesn't either. What's up, Fido?
All right, so now you guys can hear me. Ha!
Yes.
No, we can't.
Yes. But in any case, with Warframe, liking it or not, liking the gameplay of the game doesn't change the fact that the game has been massively influential in the 7 years. It's still in the top 20 most popular games on Steam after 7 years. They continue.
It's not even on Steam, though.
Huh?
League isn't on, or no, never mind. You said I was thinking of League, and you said Warframe. Fail.
Yeah, no, not League. Warframe.
Keep going. My mind was on League.
But one of the things that pretty much everybody has agreed on is that Digital Extremes has been very ethical in their handling of monetization, to the point where they once released this skin system where you could pay some platinum, the premium currency, and have randomized skins generated for one of your pets that you had in game. And whenever the studio manager, very, very publicly, he was watching a live stream where he saw this kid pull the lever and spin it like 20 times in a row. He was like, he immediately called the creative director and said, no, this has to go.
Hit the brakes on that one hard.
Yeah, like they immediately, next day, pull that system out of the game.
Like that came out, I don't know if it lasted much more than a week before they, figured that out.
Yeah, so that gives you a inkling into the mentality of a company that is trying to do ethical.
No, fuck you.
Yeah. They did not want to have anything reviewing gambling. Now, the funny thing is that they removed them later on, but they actually did have a loot box style purchase buried in their store. They were like card packs that you could get for mods. Yeah, they were loot boxes. And I think
you can still buy the.
Nope, they removed them. Nope, I'm pretty certain they removed them, or at least that's the last I checked. I think they
If
removed.
they're still in there, they're so buried that I have not even come across.
Someone told me they removed them, and I went looking for them not long ago and could not find them. So I think they're gone.
Maybe I'm thinking about something else, because there is a couple what I'd classify as loot box light items that you can buy, where it's like, oh, you buy this, you get a random mod and stuff like that.
Oh, maybe they still have them.
Which I mean,
The fucking thing though was their card pack randomization. There was like no incentive to really push people into the gambling mechanic of it, because it was all common shit that would come from.
You could get rare mods on there, but yeah, the main thing is that you ended up having 20 of everything they would give you anyway. That's the reason why it just collected dust in their store. Nobody was paying money for those. The ones that I have the problem with, that to me struck me as more predatory, and these are still there, is the weapon and warframe slots. And the reason why I have a problem with those...
Oh my god, I fucking hate that.
...is that they seem to be most predatorily targeted at newer players. Because veteran players... they can grind some prime parts and then go on the marketplace and sell those prime parts for platinum and then buy their own fucking slots, so they don't really care. But for new players, they have to pay money, or they get to have like one warframe and 2 weapons or something like that.
And now you see why I don't want to play the game.
2 warframes and like 5 or 6 weapons, and then some mastery ranks do give you more weapon slots, but I think you are still stuck having to buy the warframe slot.
Yeah.
Which, shout out to
Grim.
can't think of his name. Castiel, for helping me and doing some shit with me on warframe to help get me started. Grim, yes, that's it.
That's what I was saying, is Grim.
At least he had the time to get on. I kept trying to, but I couldn't find time.
Yeah.
I'm just glad Grim stopped being a console peasant.
Yeah. Anyway, and then let's talk about another company that is moving the direction of Digital Extremes, and somehow I still am amazed that they were able to pull this off. This to me just seems to be so insane that I don't know what kind of legal shit. I do have an inkling on what happened there, and I'll get into that in a moment, but this year was also the year that Bungie took Destiny back from Activision.
That was this year. That was January.
Yeah, that was this year in January. They took it back from Activision, which has to be the most miraculous thing I've ever seen.
Most gangster movie you've ever seen from a gang company. You heard it here first.
Now, the thing is that after I read into a little bit, I found out, it's not really as crazy as I thought, because apparently something happened where NetEase, one of those Chinese game developers, invested about $100 million into Bungie in June 2018. Shortly before Bungie took the game back. So, now to be fair, Digital Extremes also was invested in by, I think it was Tencent or someone like that. It could have been NetEase as well. Chinese companies are essentially throwing their money into, sticking their fingers into every pie they can. And they don't care about any STDs. So that's becoming that, that's something to summarize in 2019 is China investing into every fucking company. Because, it started before that, but that's when people started noticing is that, wow, China owns a percentage of this, China owns a percentage of that, China owns a percentage of this. Oh shit, my house is actually owned by China. I didn't even know. By the way, your car is owned by China. Your phone is owned by China.
Am I owned by China?
Yes.
I'm owned by China.
Yes.
What am I doing?
So, Morris, they alleged that was to make a game. However, there has been no such game that I've seen. All that we saw come shortly after that, we saw 6 months after that investment, all of a sudden they ripped away Destiny 2 from Activision, which, when you think about it, if they could successfully implement a monetization system, which as far as I understand they have, that would mean that they could then return on investment for that $100 million, and that would make NetEase just as happy as if they made a new game that made money. So I don't think it's necessarily NetEase has any problem with how they spent the money, but I'm pretty certain that the money was for Bungie to make a new game or do some new game thing, and I think that that's really what's going on here. So the hope is that NetEase remains hands-off, which thus far from every Chinese investment thing I've seen, they generally have been, except if you're a pro player makes some comment about Hong Kong, then you have to throw that player under the bus, shoot him yourself, dispose of the body, and hopefully don't make yourself as public as Blizzard. Hey Kev, your China melt or your tuna melt is 100% Chinese. Just thought you should know.
But it was so delicious.
Yes. So now we would be remiss if we didn't close out this hour talking about the get off my lawn moment. Me as a person that doesn't really like the genre, grumbling and saying, "Oh, get off my lawn." This decade, we also saw the rise of Battle Royale. Starting with PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which is still very popular. Apparently it's still, number 2 or 3? It's really huge in China. That's really where a lot of its player base is now. But you still have PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, Apex Legends, and of course the juggernaut Fortnite. And yeah. So we talked about Battle Royale. Can we move on now?
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Okay, let's talk about something else cool. So let's talk about this. You want to talk about a story that didn't age well, because
oh god,
this headline sounds so hilarious now. And Rose, you will understand what I mean as soon as I say this. Elite Dangerous sets the record for the highest Kickstarter goal to be successfully funded. Because obviously, see, Elite Dangerous got
successfully funded. Yes. Okay.
Well, no. Here's the thing: is that yes, it got funded, and hey, they actually fucking released the game. Whereas the actual now, in retrospect, because this article is old, this is from way back when, right? Now, that has been long since blown out of the water and superseded by the most ridiculously bloated and incomprehensible, mismanaged Kickstarter project. Not Kickstarter anymore. They took it off of Kickstarter so they could rip you off even better.
You can just generalize it as vaporware.
It being Star Citizen,
yeah.
Which a lot of people will defend Star Citizen and say, "Oh, they're doing stuff." I'm like, here's the thing. I know a little bit, just a thing or two about project management with technology. Enough to say that had they said, let's focus on Persistent Universe and finish Persistent Universe, they would have had a game released in 5 years. And then, if they would have then turned their resources, 70% of their resources over to start focusing on Squadron 42, and then leave that other 30% behind for post-launch support for Persistent Universe, doing updates and new content and all that stuff, they would probably finish Squadron 42 in another 3 to 4 years. But instead, we are 7 years from the inception of the project, and we have 2 alphas that have no plans to be complete anytime for the near future. In fact, they just announced that they are going to switch graphics APIs from DirectX 11 to Vulkan. which anybody who knows anything about game design, DirectX 11 was it's old standard. There's DirectX 12 now that replaced it, and Vulkan's similar to DirectX 12. The thing about DirectX 12 and Vulkan is that they are very like they can really get in and micromanage a lot of stuff. They're vastly more complex than DirectX 11. So that means that now they have to do this huge redevelopment of all of their graphics API work from scratch. Just like when they switched their game design engine over to Lumberyard and had to redo a whole bunch of shit. This is just pretty much the thing. By the way, I coined a term for this. We are going to call this software development as a service. You pay a company repeatedly to not release a product, just to keep developing a product. You know, they'll never actually release anything. You just keep paying them to develop it. Just do the development and say they're doing stuff. That's what it is. Software development as a service. Thoughts? Dumped a whole bunch of stuff. I think Kev and Rose both were like, rowdy. I'm
overloaded. I can't handle this. I should blink mine too.
Well, I think it's 9 o'clock, and Kev was like, I gotta go, yo.
True.
In any case, yeah. So that is this last decade. To answer Katz's question, hey, Caleb, Kev, everybody's back. What were you guys doing? That was very suspicious. You guys both dipped out at the same time, turned off camera. Oh, you come back? Whatever. Anyway, thoughts on...
each other's shirts.
Thoughts on Elite Dangerous being the largest Kickstarter ever funded?
I don't know. I don't keep up with Kickstarter games. It might be.
No. Yeah, he missed it. Sorry. The joke is that back whenever the article that I was citing referenced that that Elite Dangerous was the largest Kickstarter ever funded, and of course it's been long since surpassed by Star Citizen by hundreds of millions of dollars, because obviously Star Citizen's budget has now, I think it's somewhere around 300 million or something like that, and just keeps going.
The budget at 300 million, and it is, and that was at the end of last year, I think. This year we probably won't see until the end of next year, and they're expecting it. David Smart, whatever his fucking name is,
Derek Smart,
had a pretty decent breakdown as to all of that. Yep. I do believe he's expecting it to be around 100, or not 150, an increase of 150 million by the end of this year that they just haven't published.
Yeah. So Morris is referring to, I don't know if he's referring to Star Citizen or Warframe on there. But I actually have, there's one of the people that's in our Discord that actually does play it, or has on occasion played it, and you know, it's all right. And I've seen the more recent Squadron 42 used to be an absolute garbage pile for a long time. It runs somewhat smooth now. It's not really, it's an alpha. It like has no real content to it, nothing really to speak of. So gameplay is very basic, very limited. They have little milestones that they achieve, like we added in this new ship that you can buy for $300.
That gets a fucking huge news story, like it was the second coming of Jesus. I mean, come the fuck on.
And then I'm still not sure that he was here for a first time.
Yeah, and then they'll say like, oh, we added a new glass rendering system for your ships. Like there's very little incremental things. Yay, we achieved this thing! Yay! But the game is just crawling along, and they keep setting it back repeatedly with these massive overhauls and rebuilds because they're taking so fucking long. Technology is bypassing them. By the time they get to the next section, there's going to be DirectX 13 and Vulkan 2 out, and then they're going to have to rebuild that again.
Well, I still maintain...
This reminds me of Detox by Dr. Dre. He makes it and scraps it and starts over.
Yep.
I still maintain...
Go ahead, Rose.
I maintain that Elite Dangerous will have accomplished every fucking thing that Star Citizen set out to accomplish to be the first game to do by the time Star Citizen releases in the form of DLC that they will have released.
I mean, there's possibility. To be fair, the things that Star Citizen claims they want to do, it sounds very impressive. Like, there's some really cool shit that I've seen, like, that is currently available in the alpha. That, like, for example, atmospheric landing and walking out of your ship. Like, you get up out of your seat, turn around, walk to the back of the ship, leave. It's very, very simmy in that sense. And even while you're flying, you can get up out of your captain's chair, walk around your ship, go do other things in that ship. It is very immersive in that sense. Whereas Elite Dangerous is you're in your captain's seat and that's it. Which I personally don't.
For now.
Yeah. But the thing is that what it's offering is compelling, but most of the people that have invested into it now are kind of in the sunk cost fallacy. Like, they've spent money on it, so they feel they have to justify why they spent money on it. Kev knows all about this, because this is pretty much everything Kev does. Like, you know, earlier he was justifying pre-ordering Warcraft 3.
On Epic.
I just said I did it. I didn't say I was justifying it.
I know. I'm just making sure you're still awake, because it is after 9, and we know that Kev turns into a pumpkin at 9 o'clock, so...
Oh, no, my wife was rushing me out for a date night, but or a double date night. But she wanted me to go out with her, I guess, sooner. I told her I was finishing the podcast. We go afterward. She's like, no, I want to leave at 8:45. So we'll see. She left.
All right.
It is now 9.
We have Kev until 10 o'clock, everybody. You heard it here.
No, you don't.
No, all right. So, wrap it up. We do have an announcement after this, but before we get to that, I do want to go through and get everybody's, we'll just say, top 3 games of the decade for you personally. And we'll start with...
Ooh, that's hard.
Xaiphen. Top 3 games of the decade.
You're going to need to finish with me. I still have not figured that shit out.
I mean, has Xaiphen played 3 games this decade?
Only 3.
More almost.
I mean, Warframe. I mean, it's been like 3 games, hasn't it?
He's
With
played a
all
lot
overalls
more.
and shit they've done.
Okay, I can name 2 right off the top of my head. Yes, Warframe. Yep, you called it, Kev. The thing is, like, yes, it's petered out for me, but I've got so much time value on that game. Like, a good chunk of it I feel is time well spent. Elite Dangerous has superseded this as of 4 months ago when I started on that one. Although I've kind of tapered out of that, trying to catch up on some, I'd say, quick play games. You know, games that I can knock out the whole game in like, you know, a week or two's time, as opposed to spending years on the damn thing. But I can't.
And I'm that
really
asshole.
this.
I'm that asshole that sent him Fallout 4 for Christmas.
Which I
Did you fall out for Christmas? That was so nice of you.
Oh my god. That's cool.
I mean, my gift to Laura was still better.
Yeah. No, because... Yeah, no, I saw it, but no, my point is, you know, obviously you and I both agree that Fallout 4 definitely sucks you in. I don't think it's really that. It's not the best Bethesda. It's not the best Bethesda game, but it's a decent game. And it was on his wish list, and I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll send out some.
I didn't even remember that being on my wish list until you sent it to me. I forgot to remove that damn thing off.
Too late now.
Yeah.
And now you're obligated to play it because someone sent it to you as a gift. Trust me, I know that was Mass Effect Andromeda.
No, a third game, honestly.
So you played the loot box simulators I sent you?
Nope.
Putting a third game on this list is a little bit more of a fun with friends game, but it started off as just a great game overall. I'm gonna go with Titanfall 2. Because it hits the mech aspect, which I really like. I got the love for the mech games. Oh shit! What did Kev pre-order?
No, I thought that was Kev says he will never pre-order a game at 10 p.m. in 2019. Kev pre-ordered a game at 11:59 p.m. because of hype.
Truth.
Hype.
But yeah, Titanfall 2, it has a great story, although it's short, but it's good fun, great story, and of course long-term play. It's fun with friends, and I get to troll the shit out of Kev with that game, countering his trolling me on Mass Effect.
That's fair.
That's not fair.
Rose, top 3 games of the decade.
Final Fantasy 14, Elite Dangerous, and the third one is a toss-up between Warframe and Persona 5, honestly.
See, that's 4 games.
I said toss-up. It's
Go
tied.
with which one you've spent more time into.
That's gonna be Persona. Kev, which what are your
the lunchbox?
Yes, Kev, what are your top 3 pre-orders of the last decade?
Top 3 pre-orders? Oh shit!
No, what are your top 3 games of the last decade?
That's hard. I played so many. I played so many great games.
Ouch!
I'm gonna throw out.
That hurt me.
What, the pre-order comment?
Yeah. I'm just trying to.
It just washed off like rain for me.
I got that pale skin, so I need some high strength SPF to prevent.
Definitely gonna say Mass Effect 3. I'm on the fence saying Warhammer 2.
Oh
but
man,
I've been playing it for a year, but the fact that it's kept me engaged for a year.
I was gonna say, don't even try to play like that ain't one of your games of the decade, bro. I have not seen you get sucked into a game. Like, you remember, we had this conversation years ago where I was playing hundreds of hours into games, and you had played games for
like 20, 30.
Yeah, you've spent 300 hours into Warhammer 2, 300 hours into Warhammer 2?
That's far, yeah, 300 hours.
Yeah. You can't try to play like that.
I haven't done that since the Mass Effect trilogy, because I did that with Mass Effect 2 also. Like, legitimately, 2 years, that was the only game I was playing, that and Dragon Age Origins.
Yep.
And I played Batman Arkham Asylum. And, like, that was it. A little bit of NBA 2K. That was about the time I dropped off Madden. So, yeah. So, I think Warhammer 2 deserves a spot there. And in fairness, I have that many hours in Destiny also, in Destiny 2. I wouldn't say Destiny 2 is one of my top 3, but I have that many hours up there too.
I give it credit where it's due.
You what?
I said I give it credit for being a decent game, and it's not my style personally. I go with the Warframe style a little bit more than the first person style of Destiny, but I can at least respect it for being a good MMO shooter.
Mm-hmm. And as the shocker, I'm going to say The Witcher 3.
That's not a shocker.
It is for me. I still think Fallout 4 is the 2015 Game of the Year.
I should be one of those people having the Witcher 3.
Guys, hold on.
That The Witcher 3 made.
I hear someone knocking on Kev's door. There's 3 guys with Sony shirts knocking on his door right now.
So, how did you not say The Last of Us? I don't even think The Last of Us is Naughty Dog's best game.
It wasn't even the best game of 2013 when it released. GTA 5 was the best game of 2013.
Yeah.
I don't even like GTA 5, and I still think it was the best game of 2013.
I like The Last of Us. I just think Uncharted 2, 3, and 4 and Lost Legacy are all better than The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I mean, I see your argument with Uncharted 3, maybe. Uncharted 3, it hit a nosedive real hard in the last couple chapters where it just became Uncharted 2 with different backgrounds. They completely ended it in trying to remake Uncharted 2, and that's why people don't like Uncharted 3. But like the first two, 3/4, 2/3 or 3/4 of that game, stellar. It's just
Yeah.
that last little bit.
I would say my games of the decade, definitely Total War Warhammer. That's probably been my number one game series of. See, I don't separate Warhammer 1 and 2 because they've technically, in that trilogy, once 3 comes out, I'll probably end up getting 3, granted that they don't completely fuck it up. Because
I ain't gonna lie, I'll pre-order it. I'm not even gonna bullshit about it. I will likely pre-order it.
it's at this point, but they essentially, because they roll up into each other, I consider them a single game.
Well,
Because
I mean,
they really
played
are.
Warhammer 1. I played some Warhammer 1.
I put like
the
300
game-
hours into Warhammer 1 before Warhammer 2 came out. So
That was my point. Like, I think I've done maybe 20 hours of Warhammer 1. Most of my time is in Warhammer 2. Because outside of like the story content, which I wish they would have integrated into Warhammer 2, from Warhammer 1, the games are identical. Like if you're they with Mortal Empires, they did move some of the starting points Mortal Empires because they had to, otherwise some shit would have been too crowded.
oh no, they've so here's the thing, and this is just because literally today, I started up a new Empire campaign, right? Brand new, because you remember a few months back when they released not the current DLC, the Shadow and the whatever, the Blade or whatever.
They played the one with Nakai the Wanderer. Nakai the Wanderer is amazing, by the way.
So when they released that alongside not a DLC, but just a overhaul of the Empire campaign as well. I didn't touch it. I played the Empire guy that was out in Lustria, right? The hunter dude that was out there. I played that campaign through, but I didn't touch the Empire. Huh?
Marcus Wolfhart.
Yes, Marcus Wolfhart. But in any case, with that one, I started today. They've drastically changed the landscape. They added new settlements in there, changed starting locations, put people in different places, because now it's like this weird, like you can't just go and just immediately start, essentially like using your power and influence to confederate with all the guys. You actually have to play this like politics game, and it's similar to how how Dark Elves have the loyalty of the generals. There's
Xaiphen have it too.
Yeah, Xaiphen as well.
I think the Vampire Coast does.
You're right, it does. And several of them have that kind of general loyalty thing. They don't have that with the generals. It's that essentially all of the other Empire factions in that general area are all the Empire, and you just happen to be one of the provinces when you play King
Provinces
France.
now?
Yeah, provinces. Sorry.
Yeah, you said
Same words
provinces. I had to think about that.
Provinces. It's because I've said project so much. But in any case, in any case, though, so essentially you can confederate with guys, but you have to like play this political game where they get more and less fealty and all this stuff. It's kind of complicated system, but once I got a hold of it, I was like, oh, all right, I see this. This is kind of nice. I like how this is playing out. But they have a ton more settlements throughout that area, and there's a real complicated way of gaming them out. And I'm like, all right, this actually I like this. I'm more focused on the fucking politics game of this and not doing my normal thing, which is essentially building up the Northeast Quadrant just to focus on when the Chaos is going to invade, right? When Archaon is...
I don't focus on Chaos at all. I'm just running around kicking everybody's ass.
No,
and
you
Chaos
ain't.
comes and fucks my shit up.
Chaos kicked your ass all of the time. Anyway, so yeah, Total War Warhammer is definitely number one game of the decade, hands down. I would say Warframe is definitely a second, because that game has just the way, like, it's the game itself. I like the game, right? And I've spent a lot of time enjoying the game. Like Xaiphen, I also kind of got burnt out on it. It took me shorter to get burnt out on it than Xaiphen. Xaiphen went like 3,000 hours.
One of the things about the game, though, is you can burn yourself out on it, spend months away or a year away, come back, and it's fun again and different.
I felt that way about Three Kingdoms, actually. I burnt myself out on Three Kingdoms at about 165 hours. I put it down and came back yesterday.
Yep.
and it feels good again.
Yep, that's kind of the general way I do it. That's why I take breaks from Warhammer. But in any case, so the third game, I'm kind of with Rose. I have a toss up on ones because I would be remiss if I didn't say Mass Effect 3. Because I mean, it's undeniable how much influence that has had on us as a group in
I
general.
don't think this podcast would have happened without Mass Effect 3.
Yep, exactly. Like there's so much that, like, and furthermore, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel at all, because it was, communicating with N7 Spec Ops that kind of got me into wanting to do build guides. And then I end up getting mentored by Invader One on making those build guides and such. And so that's like, I would not be doing anything I'm doing right now had it not been for Mass Effect 3. So that's hard to ignore that one. But I also can't deny that The Witcher 3 was one of the most enjoyable experiences I had playing a video game.
Right.
Oh, fucking hell, Morris, you're right. God damn it.
And that's why it's hard to make 3, because I wanted to throw Rise of the Tomb Raider in there. I wanted to throw Doom 2016 in there. I wanted to throw God of War in there.
Morris reminded me Divinity Original Sin 2. Fuck, that game is also so damn good, too.
Trying to sum up a
What about
decade
XCOM
with
2?
3 games is...
Huh? Which one,
XCOM
Kev?
2.
Oh, yeah.
GTA 5. You know, there's so many great games. Halo Wars 2.
I said top 3, and I'm like...
Right, it's hard to just say top 3.
I'm a hypocrite, guys. I can't even...
If you were covering the past year, top 3 could do it, but...
Right, of a decade?
That's why you've been seeing so many 10 lists all over the place, because cover a decade.
I figured
now,
3...
If it was more by, like, genre, I could probably narrow it down more.
That's why I told Kev... That's why I told Kev top 3 pre-orders. But no, like, yeah, it is hard to roll it up 3. There are so many good games that I personally have loved over the past decade. I guess I'll summarize to those 3 because those are 3. The most hours I put into a game over the past decade have been in those 3, and the most influence they've had on me personally, I think, are those 3. While don't get me wrong.
What about Life is Strange? Oh my god, that was such a good game.
Oh, fucking hell.
The original Life is Strange.
We really gotta wrap this up. We will be on here forever about
Mafia 3, 2 and 3 are amazing.
So let's...
But especially 2.
Let's ring it in, because we do have to have like a little bit of a more slight topic shift on here, right? So something else we...
But I want to gush also about Max Payne 3, though.
So we're going to mute Kev now. So
I'm gushing about games.
There is a kind of important thing I did want to bring up before we kind of wrap things up on this episode, is that as many of you guys have kind of noticed over the past couple months, our podcast episodes have become a little bit more sparse in between there, and that's largely because trying to balance making cohesive content for those and getting everybody together was becoming a little bit of a challenge as we were doing it. So in 2020, our content style is going to shift a bit. So we're not going to be doing as much of the podcast as you see it now, at least for the next 6 months, possibly more. You won't see any of these podcast episodes. We're going to be doing the game streams that we have been doing every week on there. But essentially, the way we've kind of been doing it for the past few game streams, if you noticed, is that, like, say we're playing Dragon Age Inquisition's multiplayer. In between the matches, we'll take some time, chat about a topic that might be happening in the game news, and on the internets and on the Twitters, and discuss our thoughts in that regard rather than having a focus time podcast on the topic. And this is mostly because it takes less time for us to coalesce news stories, pick them up, and oh my gosh, what if there's not news stories that we have anything to say about it? And then come 6+ months from now, we'll reevaluate how we want to tackle the podcast when we go to bring it back. We'll probably do something a little bit different with it. But I wanted to make sure that was known so that way you guys aren't like, wait, what the hell's going on with the podcast? Why are they not doing it anymore? That's kind of why. It's because we're trying to sort out some of the stuff we're doing with the content for, and that's kind of why. But yeah. Anyway, with that said, I do want to get it wrapped up here because we're almost on for 90 minutes. Although there was a large chunk of that content which nobody could hear anything because Morty's breaking everything. That's the summary of the last decade. Morty breaks stuff.
That is a pretty good summary of just this year.
Now, I think something else we should also plug and even bring up here, because I don't know. I know Rose and myself have been doing regular content streams.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how Mort and Xaiphen are going to go about it. I know Xaiphen has some internet issues and time constraint issues.
So, I'm not sure what you're going on about with that.
I'm saying as far as individual content as well.
Oh, no, that's what I'm getting ready to go to.
Okay, I wasn't sure. That's why I asked questions.
So now, what I was going to say as we wrap it up here.
Shout out to Cats. He sent me a message on Xbox, the Xbox app, asking me what my Twitch channel was.
Yes.
That's kind of what inspired that question.
So that's actually what we're going to get to on here. So as another thing we're going to be doing more into 2020 is we're going to try to kind of build up at least a little bit more independent content streaming. So at least Rose or Kev and possibly Xaiphen, depending on if he's able to get enough stream on there. When we do the Saturday game stream, as you guys have noticed for the past several streams, we will be co-streaming those. So all of our channels will be going at once. We have a couple different ways we're doing that. If you're on Mixer, there's actually a built-in co-stream function that's super awesome. I highly recommend you check it out. That essentially, if you go to either my or Rose's, Kev isn't on there, but Xaiphen also is on Mixer. If you go to any of our Mixers, you can actually watch us all side by side, and the chat is all unified. So if you type in that chat on any of our channels, the other two can see it. So it's really super nice. If you happen to be on Twitch...
I'm on Mixer, I just don't monitor Mixer.
So if you are on Twitch, we use Khadgar. That seems to be the least problematic one, although I'm not a big fan of that because the site doesn't use any encryption at all, which is a little icky, especially in this day and age, but is what it is. But we do that so that way you guys can see 4 different perspectives at once. That said, I'll let...
I mean, so are you telling me to stop being a stubborn little bitch and get on Mixer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I figured.
That's the majority vote.
That's actually the technical term for it.
Yes.
All you need to do, Kev, is stream to Mixer and then pick up the invite for the co-stream, and then you can let it go.
Yeah, and just pretend it's not there. You don't even have... You can say that you're not on Mixer. You can pretend you're not there.
But see...
I mean, the only issue that I
have to do the multi-stream, though. And I still don't want to really acknowledge Mixer because... If I make, because like I'm going for Twitch affiliate. If I can, I just have to hit one more goal. So I'm like,
Speaking,
we're rambling at this point.
There's no strategy game fan base at all on Mixer. I'm mostly streaming strategy games. So it makes no sense for me to be on Mixer.
First of all, Kev, why don't you tell people where they can find you, including your Mixer stream, and then tell them what content you're going to be streaming in 2020.
Well, I've been streaming Total War Warhammer 2. So that's been the primary game I've been streaming on twitch.tv/GloriousKev. And that's probably where I'll stick to. I don't know my Mixer handle off top. It probably is GloriousKev, but I'd actually have to know it. That's how Mixer is a phenomenal platform. It really is. There's just nobody there. Like, and I don't want to have to drive that traffic. It's easier, at least for me, to drive on Twitch.
Welcome.
Only reason I use Twitch.
Welcome to Kev's Schrodinger's.
If Mixer had the same audience, I'd switch to Mixer in his heartbeat. It's just a superior platform.
It's Kev's Schrodinger's stream. You know, no one's going to watch the stream if it's not streaming. But he complains about it, the audience not being there because he's not.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, if you I've tried to go and just watch like Warhammer 2 streams on Mixer, they're not there. Like for any of these strategy games, like when Mixer started, it was like very PC heavy, and now it's like super Xbox heavy, and just AAA game heavy. And it's like, unless you're playing like the big name AAA games, and even then, like with something like Fortnite, when they only have like 5,000 viewers at peak hours, and that's like the top game on Mixer. Yeah,
Rose.
Like there's a ceiling.
Yeah. Rose, what are you going to be streaming? When are you going to be streaming? Where can people find you? All that good stuff.
I'm primarily on Twitch and Mixer. I'm probably going to be pulling out of YouTube for my streams just because they're getting ridiculous. They actually silenced most of one of my streams that I ended up deleting because of all fucking things. They copyrighted some random, barely audible sound, and it's pissing me off. But you can find me on just about everything as Lila Rose. There's either an underscore, it's all one word. Just find me on Twitter. You'll find all my stream locations on there. As for what I'm going to be streaming, whatever the fuck I feel.
I think right now you're doing a lot of World of Warships, right?
I was doing a lot of World of Warship. I've started feeling a lot less World of Warships because I got in that mood where I was like, hey, I can do some PvP. And now it's like, PvP.
You sound like me when I try to play Warcraft 3 in the multiplayer, and I get destroyed by the AI on easy.
I'm probably going to be streaming Warframe and Elite Dangerous, though. At some.
Good stuff. Xaiphen.
Warframe, I think that's really good on Mixer.
Anything to shell for, or any final thoughts? What's that thing behind you, by the way? That big, giant, goofy-looking controller.
I'm pretty sure it's vaporware. It's called the Smock Z.
Smock Z.
It's a great idea in mobile gaming hardware, but I just don't see it going. It was supposed to come out this year, I think, and well, there's a picture of it. It looks.
As much as we talk about how many things that Google has killed, we got to give a shout out to Valve, because Valve is trying to catch up with Google.
Yeah,
Valve is out here murdering shit left and right.
Any other thoughts, Xaiphen, or anything show for? Are you going to be streaming, or are you not going to worry about it with your internet?
I will at least co-stream, but I'm going to try and work on getting more than that. But that's a struggle to maintain that. There's one that I just had to outright shut down in the middle of it because my
basically what happened just now.
Yep.
I don't mean to laugh because it's infuriating. I understand, but that was
perfect.
That couldn't.
The timing on that was beautiful.
Oh.
So that's why Xaiphen doesn't stream, people.
I can say I honestly understand, and I've been there, and it's
people have seen movies and TV shows that feature Amish. One of the largest Amish communities, if not the largest Amish community in the U.S., is like a 20-minute drive south of me. So that gives you an idea on what kind of environment that I live in, that I've got to deal with the internet and technology of the area.
I mean, just flash your cell phone at them. They'll probably run.
Well, he doesn't have a cell phone. They've got candles and torches there.
It's glowworms. That's what I
slavery's
rely.
illegal there?
Technology's illegal where he's at. They don't actually have the internet.
No one knows how it works. This message brought to you by Glowworm.
I live just south of Seattle, a technological marvel in the country. Nobody knows how the internet works.
Nobody knows how the internet works anywhere.
And I don't mean like, getting into, how the internet comes from the server to your computer. No, they don't understand, like, if I type in the full web address in the address bar, it won't Google something.
Yeah.
Like, they think I say, go to Gmail. They don't do gmail.com. They just put Gmail and they say, oh, well, where is that in the list?
Yep.
Like, are you stupid?
In any case, though, open the box. Cat is not impressed the last 2 minutes. Yeah. In any case, we are going to get signed off here as we went a little bit past what I was hoping for. We will be back next Saturday. Yes, ish, maybe. Depends on if I'm still. It depends on if I'm still hungover from the middle of the week.
Lisa Sue.
I'm kidding. No, we'll be back next Saturday. What game? I don't remember what game we were playing. What we decided, and then I forgot.
Vermintide.
Yes, we are gonna be.
I'll make those thumbnails up.
Yeah, we are going to be playing some Vermintide. I'm gonna get my dwarf on. I love being that little short motherfucker.
Setting everything on fire.
Yes, and everybody have a happy, safe New Year's. Drink yourself into oblivion, but drink in a safe place, and don't drink and drive, and all that happy stuff. Kev will be visited by Kev is going to have a threesome with Phil Spencer and Lisa Sue for New Year's.
We're inviting Gaben and Tim.
Sorry, and Gaben. Yeah, there you go.
And we're inviting Tim Sweeney. We're not letting him in because of exclusivity. He has 26 months.
See, Tim Sweeney strikes me as the guy
deal with the biscuit.
No. See, the thing is that Tim Sweeney strikes me as the guy that would sit in the corner and just watch because he would feel like that he needs to be cucked even without being told. Anyway, guys, we're gonna get signed off here for the night.
We can mod him in the cuck simulator. We should be able to mod him in the cuck simulator.
And here's the time where we sign off, guys. Have a good night. Hurry up. Bail. Abort. Oh, God, this thing takes too long.